Coming up on We Talk News this week, Mastercard issues a warning to all its financial institutions about using a bank debit card for purchases. The Republican-controlled U.S. House of Representatives approves medical marijuana access at VA hospitals where doctors can't even recommend it now. Ohio still needs a few hundred signatures to get the adult use question on the ballot. And here's a guy who needs no introduction in baseball. Big Papi was on hand to help launch a new Rev Clinics dispensary in Leominster on the one-year anniversary of his launch of cannabis product. Or is it cannabis? All that and cannabis news coverage from coast to coast on We Talk News with Alaina Pinto. Next.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alaina Pinto, and welcome to Pro Cannabis Media's weekly news and wrap-up show that we like to call We Talk News. Our top story this week is shaking up financial institutions around the country who offer debit cards linked to Mastercard, which is the nation's second largest charge card company. Many dispensaries now allow you to make purchases on your debit card, but Mastercard is now asking for financial institutions to stop that practice. No one from Mastercard is explaining this move that will challenge the cannabis industry's cash-only transaction. Mastercard did issue a statement from a spokesperson. This is the quote. As we were made aware of this matter, we quickly investigated it. In accordance with our policies, we instructed the financial institutions that offer payment services to cannabis merchants and connect them to Mastercard to terminate the activity. The federal government considers cannabis sales illegal. So these purchases are not allowed on our systems, and that's the end of the quote. And it's just another example of why safe banking has to be passed by the Senate as soon as possible for this new industry doing billions of dollars of business in cash. Delaware, the nation's smallest state, just now starting to ramp up their legal processes and regulations for licensure in the business. Despite being the smallest state in the union with just over 1 million people, 65% of Fortune 500 companies have a base there, and 80% of publicly traded companies have also been formed in Delaware. That state will appoint a marijuana czar who will be issuing 60 cultivation licenses, 30 manufacturing, 20 retail, and 5 testing licenses. All will fall under the Department of Public Health and a division of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Departments. There will be a 15% sales tax on all adult use sales, and the state is asking for in-state residents to apply for licenses, leaving MSOs out in Chesapeake Bay. Oregon has one of the oldest legal cannabis laws, but that hasn't stopped that state from controversy. And here's Marianne Crisagi with our Oregon Cannabis Report.
I'm Marianne from Alibi with this week's Oregon Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Cannabis Business Times this week reported on the testing challenges in Oregon surrounding aspergillus. Approximately 23% of flower is failing these new tests. Aspergillus is everywhere in Oregon, and these tests are unreliable and inconsistent. We will see how the regulations update over time. And the Bend Cannabis Company, who had product recalled recently for arsenic, released information about the recalled batch, which was harvested before the heavy metals testing rules were implemented. The batch was only 1/3 of 1 pound, and the test results were 0.226 parts per million. Oregon's threshold is 0.2 parts per million. The same test in Washington and Colorado has a threshold of 10 ppm, which is 50 times higher than Oregon's. And finally, Whitney Economics published a survey of cannabis operators, and only 24.4% of operators are profitable. According to Bo Whitney, as quoted in High Times, some changes that would benefit the industry are 280E reform, safe banking, and interstate commerce. And Teachable's Summer Sesh is happening this weekend. Grab your tickets today before they're sold out. That'll do it for the Oregon Report this week. I'm Marianne with Alibi. for Weed Talk News.
Social equity opportunities for those who were most impacted by the failed war on drugs continues to be part of many new states' new laws and regulations. And the Boston Business Journal report said in Massachusetts, that social equity fund has zero money in it after 1 year. The reason for that is the legislators decided to put that money aside into the marijuana regulation fund and take 15% of that fund to go to social equity licensees. But that group of people is still waiting to get access to it. Of course, they shouldn't be that frustrated since there is still no money in it after a year. But it certainly hasn't hindered the opening of new dispensaries around the state. And PCM founder Jimmy Young has our Bay State Cannabis Report. It's sponsored by CNA Stores.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bay State Cannabis Report, sponsored by CNA Stores. I'm PCM founder Jimmy Young. So, you think there are a lot of cannabis dispensaries in Massachusetts? At last check, it was over 300. Do you know how many liquor stores or liquor licenses are in the Bay State? How about 1,900? But nobody notices them unless you're looking to buy beer, wine, or spirits. Now, every opening of a cannabis dispensary is an event. Joint Operations opened their second Bay State dispensary a few weeks ago in the tiny town of Mendon on Route 16, right next to that famous Mendon Drive-In. This location and store is stacked with name brands and craft growers. The Cannapreneur Investment Group is the owner. And what do you think is the biggest buying factor in cannabis? Price and THC. What other factors?
When we look at our business, we really pride ourselves on three things that it's easy to remember because they all start with P: the products, the price, and the people. So having the right mix of products and having whatever it is somebody might want, they'll be able to find it here.
Let's go. This is how we do it.
Up the 495 road from Mendon is Leominster. That's where you will find Rev Clinic's new outlet, where there are bargains galore. The outlet also carries Baseball Hall of Famer David Ortiz's line of cannabis products. Or is it Cannabis, Big Poppy?
It's the first anniversary of Poppy Cannabis.
It also carries the full spectrum of Rev Clinic's products. That outlet is located at 130 Pioneer Drive, and it serves medical and adult use consumers. That night, the Sensi All-Stars played a set at Electric Haze in Worcester. Jake Boynton and the boys are regulars there at 26 Millbury Street, and now so am I. That's the Bay State Cannabis Report, sponsored by CNA Stores. I'm PCM founder Jimmy Young reporting for Weed Talk News. Live from the Summit Lounge is supported by CNA Stores in Massachusetts, a veteran-owned and family-operated dispensary in Amesbury and Haverhill. It has the best selection in the state and a dedication to the community north of Boston.
Massachusetts isn't the only state with problems implementing the social equity laws. In Arizona, there is an ongoing investigation on where and how that money is distributed and who should have access to it. Karen Black has our Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. There's growing evidence Arizona's social equity program isn't working, whether by design, as some allege, or in practice. The Arizona Center for Investigative Reporting claims corporate cannabis companies are muscling out social equity operators by filing multiple joint applications and using deceptive tactics. Of the 26 original license recipients, 8 are out entirely and 2 are involved in ongoing legal battles. Several organizations, including the Arizona ACLU, the People's Ecosystem, and the Minority Cannabis Business Association, are advocating for reform. If you fly into Sky Harbor, you may be greeted by the smell of ganja. The city of Phoenix has given Trulieve 6 months to eliminate the skunky odor from its nearby indoor grow facility or be shut down. Record heat is challenging Arizona's cannabis cultivation, most of which is indoors. The increased energy consumption may translate to higher prices for consumers this fall. Speaking of consumers, beware if you use Dianity or MAC from Grow Sciences or Gelato 41 from Smooth Options, as all 3 have been recalled for possible aspergillus contamination. The recall has reignited grumbling about the accuracy of testing. That's this week's Arizona Cannabis Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting reporting for Weed Talk News.
One of the biggest names in the world of cannabis is Tilray, a publicly traded multi-country operator that is traded on NASDAQ. And after a favorable Q4 sales report, their stock shot up 20% this week. For the latest on what is going on in Illinois, we turn to cannabis legalization news. Thomas Howard.
Hey, everybody. It's Tom with Weed Talk News. There's not much going on in Illinois right now, but I was reading that story that went around with the employee from GTI who did pass away at the facility. And it shows the power and the unionization that does happen in states like Illinois and maybe also in your state. So we have a little of some company speak that looks like it was crafted by the PR department of GTI, and then also a quote from the Teamsters Western Region International Vice President Peter Flynn of the poor and untimely death of Green Thumb employee Julie DeVinny. She was 60, so young, and of Rock Island, Illinois. The Teamsters Vice President Peter said, Given this employer's recent labor record, we weren't surprised to hear the company is alleged to have threatened retaliation against a worker for exercising their right to engage in concerned activity, and then met with such comments from the Teamsters. GTI said, we deeply regret the Teamsters' attempt to push their own agenda by instilling fear and uncertainty on top of all the grief we all feel. We are focused on supporting our team members and the families during this difficult time. So remember, you're probably going to need a PR person, whether or not you have to deal with unions. And you might, because it's Illinois, it's pro-labor. And that's really all we got out of Illinois for this week. People that just won their license still have another month to get that data in. Tune in soon, because we will be back. Even cannabis legalization news is going to be on break this Sunday, so don't tune in there. Tune in to Pro Cannabis Media. And back to you in the studio.
Now let's go south to the Sunshine State, Florida. That state has a vibrant medical-only market, reporting over 830,000 registered patients. Now, law enforcement there is cracking down on unlicensed CBD and hemp-derived products that look like candy. It's called Operation Candy Crush. And the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services found nearly 70,000 illegal hemp extract products that were packaged to appeal to kids. The raids or inspections were on 475 food establishments in 37 counties. Meanwhile, in Missouri, there are going to be some happy lottery winners in the Show Me State soon, because that state is going to start offering micro business licenses that can only be acquired by individuals who enter the contest. So with more from Missouri, here's Brandon Jones.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Big Green Distribution with Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News, sponsored by Baker Brands. Appreciate you guys. So if you can see, I'm here at Relief Resources, one of the biggest volume dispensaries here in the city of Kansas City. They do a lot of great business here. And what's really special about these guys is they actually have 2 ganjiers on staff. For those that aren't familiar, the ganjier program is out up in Humboldt, and basically you have to go for about 6 weeks, study, train, and actually pass a test to make sure that you actually understand cannabis on all sorts of different levels, the genetics, the different terpene profiles, and just how to look for quality flower. So 2 of the only 5 people in the entire state work here at Relief Resources. My buddy Josh and Mitch, they are amazing. And then just the full staff here. It's a great vibe when you come in and check out. They've got great discounts for veterans here as well all the time. And they're just great people. It's a great vibe. Missouri is doing crazy right now. You don't know, $4 million a day is our average sales. And the events are getting ready to start jumping off. We've got one at 19th and Vine this weekend on Saturday. It's a free to the public event. You should come down and check us out. And then also starting here in September, we've got the Major Pack Expo taking over the T-Mobile Center, the T-Mobile Arena in downtown Kansas City, and they are allowing consumption on the decks. And then Smoky River is having the Missouri Growers Cup headlined by Paul Wall. And yes, Juicy J is headlining the Major Pack Expo. So get out to Kansas City. Lots of stuff going on in the cannabis industry. I'm Brandon Jones with Big Green Distribution for the Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Have a great week. Stay educated and medicated.
Brandon Jones, Missouri Cannabis Report is brought to you by Baker Brands, a curated B2B marketplace for head shops and dispensaries.
2 years ago, NBA Hall of Fame player Chris Webber announced he was starting a $175 million fund to build a cannabis social equity complex in Michigan. Well, the market has scaled way back, as anyone in cannabis knows, and now Weber's fund and vision will back. He wanted a 180 square foot grow facility, a consumption lounge, and dispensary. But shrinking prices and a market correction in the legal market has now forced the former NBA star into a revised scaled down plan. So, what's happening in California? The nation's largest cannabis market is right in the middle of some grow competitions that are fiercely contested. Alaina Pinto has our report from the Golden State.
I'm Alaina Pinto reporting for PCM with this week's California report for We Talk News. The California Cup season is almost coming to a close, and several clear winners have emerged who will influence trends in consumer market demand for genetics, flowers, concentrates, topicals, sublinguals, edibles, pre-rolls, and more. California is the biggest producer of cannabis in the country and perhaps the world. It's considered the oldest industry, having been the first state to create a medical program for cannabis over 27 years ago. California has been the leader for decades in breeding, genetics, and cultivation, and influenced every state's budding industry that has come after. This is why the state's competition results are so important to watch. The Emerald Cup has dominated for the past 19 years, and now many other cups have emerged and become relevant. This year, for the first time, the California State Fair included a cannabis competition and expo. The Ego Clash, a peer-judged invite-only cup where only the best of the best compete, takes place in Mendocino County and Spain annually. And the Zolympics is being held annually in both Southern California and New York. This year, the leaders have been clear. Ridgeline Farms out of Humboldt County has been dominating this year with their Luntz strain, placing in top 3 at both the Emerald Cup and the Zolympics. Huckleberry Hill Farms, a third-gen legacy farm out of Humboldt County, has been a clear leader with their unique Whitethorn Rosé cultivar, and Arcata Fire out of Humboldt County dominated the dabs categories this year at Emerald Cup across the board. Also rising in the ranks as top competitors are Fig Farms, Heart Rock Farmer Mountain, Mercy Farms, Nimbus Farms, Farmer and the Felon, and Soul Spirit Farms, to name a few. The last 2 influential cups to look out for in the 2023 California season will be the upcoming Northern California Rosin Championship on August 19th in Mendocino, and the Ego Clash in December in Mendocino. That's this week's California Cannabis Report. I'm Alaina Pinto from PCM reporting for We Talk News.
This has been a really good week for cannabis businesses in Arizona. Pencil in October 4th. That's now a target date to open cannabis social consumption lounges in the state. And here's Brooke Westlake to tell us more.
I'm Brooke Westlake from Women in Cannabis Expo for this week's Nevada Cannabis Report for We Talk News. Most recently, 40 preemptive cannabis consumption lounge licenses were approved in the state of Nevada. However, 3 of them are going to make it to the finish line this fall. First up out of Clark County is Planet 13. This just happens to also be the largest dispensary not only in Las Vegas, but in the U.S. Not a shocker there. The next one up is in Washoe Valley in northern Nevada for Soul Dispensary. And third, kind of a surprising one, a brand new LLC called LA Lounge LLC, a group formed by attorneys, doctors, and a developer, are building their lounge from the ground up. They're hoping to build it next to restaurants and shopping and are excited to open their doors this fall. With it being summertime, what's happening in the cannabis industry? Well, if you're in the state of Nevada, there's multiple events. And if you know the Chamber of Cannabis, they are actively continuing to have events in northern Nevada and Las Vegas. This week, they'll be hosting an event here in northern Nevada. If you'd like to get tickets, check them out at chamberofcannabis.com. That is this week's report. For We Talk News, I'm Brooke Westlake from Women in Cannabis Expo.
Business is booming in New England's newest adult use market in Connecticut. Sales are up, the licenses are being awarded, and with more options available now, customers are happy. Angie Seifert has our Connecticut Cannabis Report.
I'm Angie Seifert from Skip Intro Advisors with the Connecticut Cannabis Report for We Talk News. West Hartford's first legal adult use dispensary will be opening this coming Monday. the town's retail scene will enter a new phase when Butter, spelled B-U-D-R, pronounced butter, Cannabis, opens a store in a busy section of West Hartford. West Hartford has legalized such facilities in town, citing added tax revenue and business development as reasons to welcome them. Danbury is next. Butter is also hoping for a grand opening after Labor Day as construction at the Federal Road location accelerates. The obstacle holding the opening, which Danbury approved in January, was a permit from the State Department of Transportation to build a sidewalk in front of the store. Here's a quote from the founder: "We are moving fast and furious." Unlike West Hartford and Danbury looking for ways to have their residents consume legal and regulated cannabis, New Haven thinks differently. 1 week after approving 3 new adult use cannabis outlets in the city, the City Plan Commission this week denied applications for 2 others, opting not to allow hybrid cannabis businesses downtown or in the sought-after location, the 91 Diner. One of the denied facilities would have been the new location for Affinity Health and Wellness, currently the one cannabis outlet in New Haven. In both denied cases, commission members were concerned about the proximity of the proposed facilities to sensitive receptors, including a daycare and community college. Look, people consume cannabis in this exact location on the sidewalk regardless. Tell me, what's the point of having people illegally consume outside when you could have it sold and not consume on premise legally? I'm Angie Seifert from Skip Intro Advisors with the Connecticut Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News.
And finally tonight, not sure if any of you have made it to the beach this summer. I have. It's been nice. But in Florida this week, beachcombers came across an abundance of weed washed ashore. The discovery was in Neptune Beach in the northeast corner of the state near Jacksonville. And a call came in that morning to that town's police department, and they said that cannabis was washing on shore. Well, officers on the scene reported that the ocean's special delivery should not be a treasure hunt for residents. Besides, the weed was pretty, destroyed by the water, by the ocean, by the salt. Still could be like a nice, souvenir. Come home from the beach, this like random bag of weed that you found. Anyway, that is Weed Talk News this week. I'm Alaina Pinto. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there, especially for the fish swimming in the ocean. We all need to use it responsibly. See you next time.
The Vermont Cannabis Report is supported by another Green Mountain business, Canatrol, winner of High Times Best Dry Cure System. Check them out at canatrols.com.
We are a cultivation through to consumption lifestyle brand for the cannabis industry. Of course, the crown jewel in our product line is the Armoire home grow system. So now with Green Goddess Supply, we can take you everywhere from growing it in the armoire right through to storing it, consuming it, rolling it, storing it, you name it, A to Z. Our goal is to enable everybody and anybody anywhere to be able to produce their own organic flower quickly, easily, discreetly, and inexpensively.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it could make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems, whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago are saying that will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
Safetiva Labs in Westfield is fast becoming the #1 testing lab for cannabis in Western Massachusetts. Safetiva understands the importance for accurate on-time test results for your product. That's why their current compliance panel turnaround time is less than 2 days. That's Safetiva Labs in Westfield. For more information, go to safetiva.com. The Vermont Cannabis Report is supported by another Green Mountain business, Canatrol, winner of High Times Best Dry Cure System. Check them out at canatrols.com.